Then we move on to specification 9, which asks us to explain the roles of follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, estrogen, and progesterone in controlling the menstrual cycle. So here, we will focus on understanding how these hormones act during each phase of the menstrual cycle and how they work together to regulate it. Hormonal regulation controls the menstrual cycle in a precise and coordinated way. These hormones manage the development and release of an egg and prepare the uterus for a possible pregnancy. This control helps keep the cycle regular and creates suitable conditions for fertilization and implantation, making reproduction possible. The main hormones involved are follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, estrogen, and progesterone. Follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates the maturation of the egg in the ovary and also promotes the production of estrogen. Luteinizing hormone is responsible for triggering ovulation and the formation of the corpus luteum. Estrogen helps to rebuild and thicken the lining of the uterus and also controls the cycle by reducing the release of follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone after ovulation. Progesterone maintains the thickness of the uterine lining, prevents the release of these hormones during the cycle, and supports pregnancy if fertilization occurs. The female reproductive system is controlled by a set of important hormones, each produced in specific glands and carrying out particular functions during the menstrual cycle. These hormones work together to regulate the development of the egg and prepare the uterus for a possible pregnancy. The anterior pituitary gland produces two key hormones known as follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates the growth and development of follicles in the ovaries, each containing an egg. It also encourages these follicles to release estrogen. Luteinizing hormone plays a major role in triggering ovulation, where the mature egg is released from the ovary. After ovulation, it helps convert the empty follicle into the corpus luteum. The ovaries produce two main hormones, estrogen and progesterone, which control the condition of the uterus and also provide feedback to the brain. Estrogen is responsible for thickening the lining of the uterus, making it suitable for implantation. For most of the cycle, it reduces the release of follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, but just before ovulation, high levels of estrogen actually stimulate their release, leading to the luteinizing hormone surge. Progesterone is responsible for maintaining the thickened uterine lining after ovulation. It ensures that the uterus remains ready to support the developing embryo. It also prevents the release of follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, stopping the development of new follicles during the same cycle. Overall, follicle-stimulating hormone promotes follicle growth and estrogen production, luteinizing hormone triggers ovulation and formation of the corpus luteum, estrogen thickens the uterine lining and regulates hormone release, and progesterone maintains the uterine lining while preventing further hormonal activity during the cycle. Now, talking about the hormonal regulation of the menstrual cycle, it is controlled by a complex interaction between the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and ovaries, usually lasting around 28 days. Four main hormones, FSH, LH, estrogen, and progesterone, work together to coordinate the development of the egg, ovulation, and the preparation of the uterus for potential pregnancy. Follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH, is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland at the start of the cycle. Its main role is to stimulate the growth and maturation of ovarian follicles. Under the influence of FSH, each developing follicle begins producing estrogen, and usually only one dominant follicle fully matures in each cycle. Estrogen is mainly produced by the developing follicle. It helps rebuild and thicken the uterine lining after menstruation, preparing it for possible implantation. Rising estrogen levels also regulate the cycle by controlling FSH and LH secretion, preventing multiple eggs from maturing at the same time. When estrogen reaches a high level, it triggers the LH surge that is crucial for ovulation. Then, luteinizing hormone, or LH, also comes from the anterior pituitary gland and becomes important around the middle of the cycle. The LH surge causes ovulation, releasing the mature egg from the ovary. After ovulation, LH helps transform the ruptured follicle into the corpus luteum, which produces progesterone to maintain the uterine lining. Progesterone is secreted by the corpus luteum after ovulation. Its primary function is to keep the uterine lining thick, making it suitable for implantation of a fertilized egg. Progesterone also prevents the secretion of FSH and LH, stopping another egg from maturing during the same cycle. If fertilization occurs, progesterone supports early pregnancy. If not, progesterone levels fall, causing the uterine lining to break down and menstruation to begin. In conclusion, the menstrual cycle can be divided into four main phases. The menstrual phase, from days 1 to 5, involves the shedding of the uterine lining. The follicular phase, from days 1 to 13, involves follicle maturation and rising estrogen levels. Ovulation occurs around day 14, triggered by the LH surge, and the luteal phase, from days 15 to 28, involves the formation of the corpus luteum and secretion of progesterone. This coordinated hormonal regulation ensures that usually only one egg is released per cycle, the uterus is ready for pregnancy, and the cycle repeats reliably each month. As you can see, the graph illustrates the human menstrual cycle, a complex process controlled by hormones that prepares the body for a possible pregnancy. It usually follows a cycle of about 28 days and is divided into four main stages. The cycle begins with menstruation, which occurs from day 1 to day 5. During this stage, if pregnancy has not occurred, the thickened lining of the uterus breaks down and is shed through the vagina. At this time, the levels of estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest, which triggers the shedding of the lining. This is followed by the follicular phase, from day 6 to day 13. During this stage, the pituitary gland releases follicle-stimulating hormone, which stimulates several follicles in the ovaries to begin maturing. Usually, one follicle becomes dominant. As it develops, it releases estrogen, which causes the uterine lining to thicken again and become rich in blood vessels, preparing for a possible embryo. Around day 14, ovulation occurs, marking the most fertile period of the cycle. A sudden surge in luteinizing hormone causes the mature follicle to burst and release an egg into the fallopian tube. This is the time when fertilization is most likely to occur. The egg remains viable for about 1 day, while sperm can survive in the female body for several days. After ovulation, the luteal phase takes place from day 15 to day 28. The empty follicle develops into a structure called the corpus luteum, which produces high levels of progesterone. This hormone keeps the uterine lining thick and ready for implantation. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum breaks down, progesterone levels decrease, and the uterine lining begins to shed, starting the cycle again. However, if fertilization occurs, the embryo implants in the lining and hormone levels remain high to support pregnancy. Overall, follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates the growth of the follicle, estrogen repairs and thickens the uterine lining, luteinizing hormone triggers ovulation, and progesterone maintains the uterine lining for a possible pregnancy.